Good afternoon. Hello everyone. I'm Olga Atamanova. I'm glad to greet everyone who joined the online presentation in Ukraine Media Center today. We have an important project today. It's called Tribe. Tribe is the project of Amnesty International Ukraine in cooperation with Amnesty International Denmark. It is aimed at raising the human rights protection potential of veterans, both male and female. The veterans will get comprehensive access to programs that pertain to different initiatives and classes. We will talk in detail about this, who can join, and we will talk about some details during our conference. We have Veronika Puhach. She is the coordinator of Tribe project in Amnesty International Ukraine. Lera Burlakova, who is the veteran. She is coordinator of media and campaigns of Amnesty International Ukraine. Kateryna Pryimak, she's a veteran and she heads the NGO, which is called Female Veterans Movement. Also, Kateryna Khrapovych, who is the manager of education chapter of NGO Pryncyp. So how did the idea appear and why it was Amnesty that took up the initiative, which is not very characteristic of your activity? Well, of course, why the Amnesty has undertook to implement this project. When we gathered together as a new team in 2024, we decided to work in a way that nothing that touches upon Ukraine happens without Ukraine. So we also gathered veterans, both female and male, which is characteristic of Amnesty in general and Ukrainian Amnesty in the past. But we think that now, when we see how urgent are the issues of violation of human rights in the context of war, we want to support those people who are protecting and were defending our country, also their families. Why we undertook to implement the Tribe project. We held quite a lot of discussions about the demand for Amnesty's activities. We are not humanitarian or charity organization. We're not the Center for Psychological Support. We are educational human rights organization. So after our discussions, where veteran Lera Burlakova was very instrumental and other colleagues, we saw the demand for the fact that veterans do not know often about their rights. They do not know whom to address after they return to civilian life, what they can expect, what exists only on paper but not in practice. So we decided to join our efforts with a specialized human rights organizations, and we are now working with different NGOs. It looks like the project includes several directions and chapters. Let's talk about what the project will be about, what it will include, and I understand that you have found partners for every direction. When we were looking for partner organizations, we paid close attention to the reputation of the organization, to their level of expertise, and to the fact that they are really veterans organizations who do not only work with veterans, but who are also directly involved in the context of war. So we have different organizations who are distinguished with different strong points. If we talk about the principle or Pryncyp NGO, it's about the legal education about legislation. So we will develop a navigator of services for communities which are accessible to veterans. If we talk about the veterans movement or female veteran movement, these are just unbelievable women who have experienced war, who have gone through war. They are nurturing women's activism, and they are very strong in the practice of civil activism, and they understand very well the importance of strengthening this direction. Let's talk about Vesta Charity Foundation. They are very strong in legal and psychological support, and also in communication, how to talk to media, how veterans should represent themselves. And let's talk about the Leadership Center of Defenders of the Kyiv-Mohyla University. They are experts in skills of public administration, of resilience, of connections. So if we and when we add the competences of Amnesty International Ukraine, especially in things like documenting war crimes or working out and developing large-scale projects, I think that we can together do quite a lot in developing skills for veterans and for veterans. We can do quite a lot where psychological and communication support is concerned. Lera, you are a veteran, and there's a presumption that your experience was instrumental, if not the key, in bringing together all those competencies. I think that this is not just my experience, this is the universal experience. People who come back from the war are very often not satisfied with what is happening here, and sometimes there's even the idea to take a grenade and go someplace, but quite often you just don't understand what to do. For instance, there's an illegal construction next to your house, and you don't know where to go and whom to address. So we, together with our partners, try to join together all the tools, all the instruments that our organizations have, and create a mass of universal knowledge and universal skills that people can use when they come back from the war. And this is very good because we will teach people how to communicate with the media, how to launch applications and complaints. Very often we see how veterans come back, and some bad people can abuse them. Kateryna, you're from Pryncyp NGO, you're manager of the education chapter. What can you tell us? When we connected with our partners, we understood that we do not want to do what we used to do earlier. We wanted to provide the knowledge that helps those people to get involved in the sphere of civic activity, and we also try to to draw their attention to how public administration and state administration and state structures work, how they can change and suggest the adoption of laws. We will also work with psychological rehabilitation and how you can be influenced by different sorts of risks. Also, as our colleagues have already said, we will teach them how to communicate with media and some technicalities of communicating with officials. And of course, the educational process involves a lot of practice. Practically every class leads to the formation of skills that they can use right away. We have involved many people from non-governmental sector, but also from government structures who can explain them quite a lot. However, the program is really large scale. It involves almost 80 hours of different classes. Will it be offline, online, how you can join the program, and what are your target numbers? Most of the education of the classes will be held online. This is because we want to involve as many people from different communities across Ukraine as possible, and anyone can join. However, we do conduct some selection process. At the moment, we offer 25 places which will allow us to more effectively work with every participant. But if we are successful in this, we will look at launching the second season. And who are your speakers? At the moment, we are agreeing and adjusting details. I cannot reveal the information now, but as soon as we are definite about this, we will publish it. Bohdana, we understand that psychological support is very important. How will you work with this in this project? First of all, we will talk about what actually is psychological health is. If, for instance, in the community there are no experts in this or any team that is responsible for this, then people who come to this community, they become locked within themselves, and media thrives on this, saying that veterans do not have nor the possibility or the capability to communicate. And we will tell them that sometimes it's okay to feel yourself unadjusted at the beginning, but then you can actually correct this. And of course, we will work in different directions, because people who are engaged in protecting the interests of the community face quite a lot of difficulties including, for instance, when you want to protect a pond in your community, you have to write a lot of addresses and appeals to different official bodies. You have to understand the consecutive character of doing this. There's a feeling we talk quite a lot about working with veterans, but at the same moment we think that it's important to work with the society so that the society treats the veterans rightly. Objectively, I think that we will honestly be discussing the story that our society is not ready for the veterans, and quite often our society does not want to penetrate their stories. Yes, okay, we're ready to read something, but we are either over-enthusiastic and try to hug them all the time, or on the other hand, to be afraid to communicate for the fear of saying something wrongly. So there's a communication element, how to teach people how to communicate their ideas on the one hand, and on the other hand, how to correctly draw drafts of official documents that they can lock with official bodies so that they are being heard. Kateryna, I understand that advocacy is an important element and a component in this project, so that the veterans are drivers of changes in our country. How will you work with this component? I would start with the let's not delineate veterans and society, because veterans are part of society. Yes, you are right that society has to be taught, and veterans should be taught as part of the society, those who want to do this. For our organization, advocacy is an important component of memory, because people who lose their near and dear, their health, their lives, themselves during the war, all this has a high price that we should not level down. People often go to fight for the vision of Ukraine, not for Ukraine as it is now. So we have to help them learn to fight not only with their weapons, but also with legal knowledge, so that we do not forsake our country. And of course, to expect from the veterans that they come back and do everything, this is a failing strategy, and such a course is badly needed by many people in different communities. We will just start with the audience that should be supported when they return and provide them with new senses. If our organization had a opportunity to touch the community with in such a way, and we could pass on the experience, because, for instance, our organization started with opening for women 63 military offices that were previously, and positions that were previously closed for women. And then we started to expand our talk about the fate and the situation of women in the war, to point out the points that should be rectified so that there's some justice in society in this respect. Previously, women were devoid of quite a lot of possibilities to protect their own home. And for those who did not see this earlier, it became evident after 2022. We understand that civil education, societal knowledge, we understand that war leads to a loss in education about human rights and how to do this without populism. That's why our path is being implemented into this course, and we hope that because of these projects, new and new veterans will join our organization as well in order to change something in their communities. It all depends, it all begins with a space where you return. And if you have come back in a wheelchair, that means that the space has taken probably half of your life from you. So it is important for veterans to feel support from other people. And regrettably, we do not have everything prepared for us. These projects helps us realize this and become a foundation for the entire society to build new systems which are more humane, and there will be a place for veterans there, and they will be not juxtaposed to the society. Veronika, Vera, Lera, maybe you'll talk about the mechanics of the project, how you can join it, and was I right in understanding that you plan to involve 25 people at first? How will you select them? And what about the next stages? Yes, okay. I also wanted to add about the society. I do agree that there cannot be one-way movement about only veterans who have sacrificed their years and health, and many have lost their lives, and they still have to communicate with the society on their own. And the part, in addition to what Kateryna has mentioned, we plan to not only provide communication and media skills about press releases, press conferences, and different public appearances, we also plan to teach our veterans to write columns and opinions for local media. We want to find platforms for their speeches on local television or radio and such. As far as the selection is concerned, we have developed a certain system with our partners where we take into account the motivation of people, the level of knowledge of people about the human rights, and we also count, first of all, we take into account the experience and the context from which the person comes. And of course, it is important for veterans and for us to take into account their combat experience. And every person will be selected by 3 people from different organizations. And first, it will be the evaluation of their motivation according to the questionnaire that they fill in. We have this questionnaire on the Amnesty site and on the websites of our partners, and on the basis of understanding their motivation, we will also look at some quality and quantity indicators. Then there will be a short list composed, and people from the short list will be interviewed by at least 2 people from different organizations. And in the beginning of July, we plan to hold an offline retreat for our participants, and then in the second half of July we start the online classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We are trying to be flexible because we understand that people have their families and other interests, and our classes are not just for people who have a lot of free time on their hands. The program will last until November, and after this we will launch the trips to communities, trainings for small groups of veterans, public readings, writing and publishing columns and opinions, and this will continue within this season of tribes until the mid-2026. Apart from the 25 people who will be selected for this project, we have some other people selected as well. Quite a lot of veterans meet situation like, for instance, a girl with a pink hair enters a minibus, and she shows the certificate of the combat of the front fighter, and she's being told, "I don't believe you, where have you been?" We have to pay attention to this as well. And of course we also work with our former prisoners of war and their families. We have to show how different our veterans are. Can people even now, even today, start to fill in the questionnaires? Yes, of course. All the May through, they've been filling in those questionnaires, and you can do this until the 10th of June. We will evaluate every candidate, every applicant. We will pay attention and time to this, and we are very much interested in veterans who have the drive to change the future of our country and make it brighter and less dark. We're very interested in involving such people. Maybe people who want to engage in environmental issues, mainly animal rights or prisoners' rights. It would be very interesting to involve people like this. Of course, tribe is the project for 25 people, but we want to build a community which is built of real people, people who are alive, people who are unbelievable, amazing, who are strong because they unite and join together their strong facets. And they should change the narrative which says that while people were fighting, they were okay, but when they come back, they become sort of a burden for the society. I think this is very dangerous, even for our states. But our veterans are people with resilience, with skills, and they are the advantage for our society, and they are a strong component of our society. And I would like people to apply for the project. Please do fill in the questionnaire. We have different flyers with QR codes here, and on the page of Amnesty International Ukraine, you have the link to this questionnaire. If you have any questions, you can write to me personally on my Facebook, Veronika Puhach. I will point you to where you should go. Any questions or comments from the floor? No questions, no comments. So the presentation was comprehensive. If there are no questions, I want to thank you for this event, for this initiative, and of course we would like as many people as possible apply for this project and go through the comprehensive education that they can get. Thank you everyone who joined, and of course I want to thank our veterans of our defense, due to whom we can come together and hold such events. Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.